Have you been enjoying our Impact Podcast and our great guests? Then please give us a thumbs up and leave a 5-star review on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your favorite podcasts. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com. This episode of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Closed Loop Partners. Closed Loop Partners is a leading circular economy investor in the United States with an extensive network of Fortune 500 corporate investors, family offices, institutional investors, industry experts, and impact partners. Closed Loop's platform spans the arc of capital from venture capital to private equity, bridging gaps and fostering synergies to scale the circular economy. To find Closed Loop Partners, please go to www.closedlooppartners.com. Welcome to another edition of the Impact Podcast. This is a super special edition. We've got with us today the Treehugger himself, Graham Hill, founder and CEO of the Carbonauts. But of course, so many of you know him for many other reasons, which we'll get into today. Welcome, Graham.
Thank you for having me. A real pleasure to be here.
You know, it's such an honor to have you today, Graham, because even, for me who got into the industry about 20 years ago, you've been a living legend, a shining light, even when there was a lot of darkness. And so
Thanks.
many of us, like me, have followed your career, followed your trajectory, and just followed all the great and important work you accomplished and inspired all of us. So thank you for all that you've done, including for myself.
Thank you, John. That's great. Yeah, it's nice to have been able to create some things that help get people excited about the incredible green future. And so I really appreciate hearing that.
It's the truth. And, for the listeners and viewers who haven't heard of you yet, and I want to ask you about this, you have a TED Talk that has over 11 million views. Of course, you created the iconic and legendary, which still exists today, and I read it today, treehugger.com, which had at one point billions of views, probably now tens of billions of views. You've been on the cover of numerous magazines, and truly before sustainability became a thing, you were beating the drum and doing it way before it was cool, and you actually made it cool. Can you talk a little bit, before we get talking, of course, about the Carbonauts, can you talk a little bit about your history leading up to the Carbonauts?
Absolutely. So I'm undercover Canadian, although I've been in the U.S. for a long time. I studied architecture and product design. I grew up in the country in a log cabin with hippie parents, a lot of health food and hippie stuff. So I definitely came by this honestly. And in the early 90s, 93, 94, I fell in love with the internet at Emily Carr in Vancouver. And they just were advanced meaning that we had one computer that had the graphical web, as it was called then. And then we used email, the sort of war games, green characters on the screen kind of thing. Anyway, I just saw that as the future. And so was lucky to start a company in 1995 in Seattle, just over the border from Vancouver, with my cousin Tish Hill, building websites, because we just thought that was, and we're very lucky and did some good work and pushed hard, right place, right time, and built it to 60 people and sold it and did a ton of work for Microsoft. And so I've been in the service industry before. And so that was really formative, because it really allowed me. I really became an entrepreneur at that point, and I made some money at an early age, and so that allowed me to. I basically moved to Boston temporarily to run one of the other companies that got bought by our parent company, with the deal that I would be able to get to New York City. When I had traveled to New York City, I was like, people walk my speed here. I really, really like it. I was very drawn to New York. And so I finagled my way there, worked for the parent company for a little bit. And then that's when everything blew up in 2000, I guess, 2001. And so I made some money, and I no longer was working for the parent company, and I stumbled across the natural step, which is still going today. And I was able to be choosy about what I wanted to do. And so sort of natural step, and Natural Capitalism, the book by the Levins and Paul Hawken, etc., was very inspiring. And I reading science about evolution and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I was able to be choosy about what I wanted to do, and I was very clear to me that I wanted to do environmental matters. And so that was 23 years ago, and I've been focused on it ever since. And so I started off, I was looking at green roofs in like 2000, 2001, but I ended up focusing on building a plant-based air filter. So It turns out that if you run air through soil, of a living plant, the sort of bacteria around the root structure will break down pollutants. And so I wanted to build like a beautiful air filter that would go in your bedroom kind of thing. And I got some bad advice from some of my partners, and sort of wanted something small and inexpensive, and it ended up being large and expensive, but it really got me going. And yeah, people have built these things. I honestly don't know how well they work, because I sort of know about it. In my opinion, they have to be pretty big to do much. But in any case, that got me going. And I had an idea for Treehugger in 2000. And basically, environmental media at that point, as you remember, and certainly some of the listeners will remember, was terrible. It was negative. It was stop this, stop that. It was political. It was so it was partisan. It was often anti-business. It was not designed forward. Love the hippies, tiny market. And so I just saw an opportunity, because I could piece together in my mind, I could see this incredible green future that was highlighted by books like Natural Capitalism. I could sort of see it. And in my searching around the internet, I could see all these incredible things, but it was hard for most people to sort of put it together. And so the environmental media, we need the alarmist stuff. We need the negative stuff. We probably even need the partisan stuff. Like, not that that's terrible, but I really felt we needed something for someone who wore a collared shirt, lived in a city, that we needed something that was bipartisan, that was pro-business, that was designed forward, that showed this exciting green future that I could see. And so that was the basis for Treehugger. And obviously it's a tongue-in-cheek name. We were just having some fun with it, but made it very memorable. And so I had thought about it in 2000, and basically in 2004, the technology came. So then the blogging platform, which made it inexpensive and easy to build media, which, has changed our world in such a big way. And my friend Nick Denton did Gawker Media and was very helpful in pushing me to do it. And so we pushed really hard, and we had such a new, unique approach. And we were one of the early blogs, which is very incestuous, which helped you get page views. And so we were very quickly the biggest green site on the web. And Treehugger grew and grew, and ended up selling it to Discovery in 2007. Worked for them for a number of years, and it's still going strong. Lloyd Alter, who I hired probably in 2005, maybe even 2004, still there, crushing it. And they're now, they were part of Discovery. Then they did a joint venture with MNN, and then they eventually sold to IAC. And so my old friend Neil Vogel is now runs the whole division there, which is so they're ended up in a good place, and it's still going strong. And I highly recommend to readers. They have a fantastic newsletter, and it's just a solid site. Of course, it's hard to see it in the context of what it is now because there's so many other sites doing similar. But yeah, Treehugger is a wonderful thing, and it got billions of web pages over the years.
It was in my
so that
inbox.
was the
Yeah, it was in my inbox this morning, and it was still, like you said, Loyal's doing a great job, and it's still very relevant.
Yeah, it's great.
Which is awesome, Yeah,
and it's still as funny and funnier and more. I mean, the guy's been doing it forever. It's amazing. So I highly recommend that. And we're probably going to do some work with them, which is fantastic. So that was the Treehugger story. And so Discovery loved them. They were great to work with, and still we'll probably do some work with them with Carbonauts. Then I focused on small living for about a decade. So I built this company called LifeEdited with Ross Porter and a handful of other, David Freelander and a number of other people. And we basically had the idea that if you're smart, if you apply smart design technology and a little behavior change, that you can create a smaller life that's going to save you money, that is going to be better for the planet, and that ultimately a smaller, simpler life is actually a happier life. That we've gotten confused with somehow this idea that more space and more stuff is really going to make a difference to our happiness, and happiness levels have flatlined since the 50s, and it's just crystal clear. So, so we did some really cool.
The 50s. You know why it's flatlined since the 50s? There's actually, I actually learned this recently, but do you know why?
I don't know. Tell me.
Pretty much, it was the lack of connectivity that was created by the television.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that actually came out of the Harvard Happiness Study.
Right. I'm just about to listen to the Sam Harris interview with that guy about that. Very cool. Yeah, that sounds about right.
And he literally talks about just what you said. Since the 50s, it's been flatline or decline.
And probably with social media, even a further decline.
It's funny. It's funny you talk about space, though. I remember, and of course, I don't remember the actual publication, but I remember a wonderful article on you being done about the space that you had been living in, that you had set up during this period. It's such a visual that the visuals articulated your message better than even the message itself, the written word, because I remember just marveling at how small you were living in, and were just very happy.
Yeah, it was great. Now, so I did sort of 3 main personal projects, and we did some projects for other people, including one of the founders of Summit series. But I built in New York, I built a 420 square foot apartment.
Right.
And then after that, I did 350, and I lived in both of them for quite a while. And so they were, I really pushed it, or we pushed it, really, the team. And so it was down to the, forks and knives kind of thing, like every last detail. But it was, if you search LifeEdited, you can see a bunch of examples. We were on the cover of Dwell for the small space issue. And so it was moving walls, was part of it. Definitely lots of Murphy beds. And the one's main space sort of would transform. So it would go from your open office space during the daytime to living room. We had a table that sort of hid away and stretched from about a foot wide to, 8 feet. So we could have, and had a bunch of parts that you would add to it. So you could have dinner for like 10 people in my space. Wow. And then there was a moving wall that came out and revealed some fold down bunk beds. So on one side, and then a big queen size bed folded over the couch, and then a curtain sort of closed the two off. And so you could have couple guests over, and it was terrific. So it did sort of everything. It was really fun. And then I did an even smaller one upstairs, and so that was great. And then I built in Maui. Everyone was like, yeah, it's micro units. What about families? And so I built one for families. And so I built 1,000 square foot, 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, which is a lot in a bath. Now, part of it is Maui. So part of it was 400 was outside, covered lanai kind of thing. So there definitely was a little cheating, but by the book, it's 1,000 and fully off grid. So full solar setup with the Blue Planet, batteries, and my friend David Sellers helped us put that whole together. Water catchment, composting toilets, we and electric car. So we did the whole thing, and I still own that and rent it. Have a lovely couple there now, and it's been fun to expose it to other people over the years. So LifeEdited was part sort of media, part projects, and it was really fun, and we were good at it. Maybe not good at doing inexpensive stuff, but I sort of got to the point where I realized that I didn't want to be a real estate developer. And so that was a problem, because I didn't want to be an architect, but I didn't want to be a real estate developer. So It's still a passion of mine. I'm trying to avoid it because it's such a time suck, but it is really fun for me. And so that brought us to the Carbonauts, and that's what I'm up to now. And the Carbonauts is about 3 years old. And basically, I realized that awareness is very high. So the compared to when I started Treehugger in 2004, that was about mainstreaming green. How do we make this more popular and mainstream? And the reality is now everyone gets it. The numbers are incredibly high, and climate does not care about our feelings.
Or our politics.
Yeah, it doesn't care about our awareness. That's not what matters. What matters is action. And so the challenge...
we live in California. We're living through one of the biggest rain...
Right, exactly.
...systems ever, in California's last 50 years. So no matter what people's opinion is anymore, which used to matter back in 2005 and 6, when there was, like you said, when things were bipartisan, it's undeniable now. It's unstoppable, the climate change issue.
It's clear.
It's clear. Talk a little bit about what Carbonauts is. And for our listeners and viewers, it says it right on your head, but it's just so people know. It's thecarbonauts.com to find Graham and his colleagues and all the great work they're doing. Tell us now, what was the mission and the vision with Carbonauts?
So the basically what I saw is incredibly high awareness, very little action. I think I used to do it back in Treehugger days. I'd sort of look around because I was, in this group of green leaders, and I was like, I feel like a lot of people are not actually living living super, even though these are the leaders, not living in super green ways. So, and not to point fingers, it's just like we're busy, and this is sometimes complicated to know what to do. You sit down and try to figure it out. There's so much information these days, and misinformation, disinformation, that it's hard to feel confident. And so then you just go back to your normal life. It's hard to know what to do. And so the Carbonauts is really about helping move our society from awareness to action, and building the identity. So we believe that this is largely about social norms. And so we have to, and where we are now is we have high awareness, very little action. And so we need to sort of find that 5% of the population that are game to do stuff, and help support, incent, inspire them to help create the social norms that will have everyone else sort of come along. That's sort of the big idea. And so over the years, had seen so many websites and apps and all sorts of guides and 100 tips for this, and just felt like nothing ever got much traction. And so we decided to sort of go back to basics and realize that a lot of this is pursuant to what we were talking about earlier, is about relationships and about connection and about things being live. We're on a video chat, so we're human. We like to look at each other and see how each other's reacting. So a long way of saying we ended up doing workshops, and that's our focus. So we do live, cameras on, highly interactive workshops around sustainability for mostly big companies. We're going to do more sort of B2C, direct to citizen, as I like to say. We'll definitely do some of that, and in fact, we may be doing some great work with the National Wildlife Federation as a partner. So excited
That's
about
great.
that. But largely, we have a fantastic set of clients, including Amazon and Chanel and AT&T and Toyota. So a big, amazing set of clients.
Oh,
and we do cohorts of usually 30 people, and we teach them these live workshops. Could be anywhere from 30 minutes, 45, 60, 75, something like that. Some of them are one-off. Some of them are an hour a week for a month or 6 weeks. And largely, we are just meeting people where they are and helping them sort of teach them how this stuff works. And most importantly, helping that to educate and inspire them to take action, to actually start to build. Part of when you do something, you become the kind of person that does that kind of thing. And so action can really help you create identity. And so we need to build the social norms that we all know that these things are important, but not a lot of us are doing them. And so once you build the social norms, then people just we care very much about what other people think. And so that's what we're trying to do. So we do a whole bunch of workshops around stuff like what we call the Big Six, which are the 6 most impactful things you can do to reduce your footprint. Those are, I haven't talked about this for a while. It's funny to do it. I guess the holidays. Switching to renewable energy. So that could be via your utility, via community solar, via solar panels, depending on your capabilities. We advocate reducing driving by as much as possible and electrifying as much of the miles as you can. So moving to at least a plug-in, if not full electric. We advocate for a plant-rich diet. So we help people become more plant-rich. Reducing food waste, which turns out to actually be a big component of climate change. Composting. So you can do it whether you got an apartment or a house. And so we help people with that. And then this one's a little trickier, but we work with people on reducing and optimizing flying, because it turns out that flying is actually, for many people, the biggest component of their footprint. And so there's a bunch of useful stuff that you can do there. Then offsets, high quality, third-party certified, if you can afford them, as much as possible, ideally bring yourself into carbon neutral territory. And then social norms, helping people understand that you want to be public about this, not in a preachy, shaming way, but in a positive, helpful, tactful manner. You want to let other people know that you're doing this stuff so that they can be more comfortable doing it or talking about what they're already doing. And so we help people understand the importance of social norms. So we do stuff like that. We'll do like a workshop on climate optimism. So how to, move through the depression that some people will do some on like sustainable fashion. And then we're starting to do more stuff on the businesses themselves. So focused on, but typically our sort of sleight of hand is in a way to get employees engaged in sustainability. We have them start with focusing on their homes. So it appeals to people's self-interest. For most people, home is number one. It's not work. And so in that process, so the companies pay for them to take these cohort-based workshops, and we help them do all the things I just mentioned at home or whatever works for them. And we're very non-judgmental. We call it the judgment-free zone. Meet people where they are, and we're just very inspiring and helpful and give them the resources and the support to sort of get this done. And so in that process, they learn all about sustainability, which of course applies directly to the company. And so we help staff become climate literate, climate enthusiastic, and that helps with eco innovation at work. And also, it's all employee engagement, and staff really care, particularly the millennials, et cetera. They really care about working for a company with values. And so this is great team building and great attract and retain. So there's some awesome HR benefits on top of the sort of standard ESG that you would expect from these. So yeah, so that's the basic Carbonauts idea. 3 years going, and yeah, it's a simple service company. We're all over the U.S. We work all over the planet. We're working with like over 30 countries, Asia, Australia, all over Europe. We're even looking at doing some other languages. And yeah, so it's not an easy. We're stuck in slow corporate sales cycles, which is maddening to say the least. But we're getting there. We run net promotion surveys, NPSs, after every single hour. And so we know we get anecdotal and statistical feedback. And so we know that our workshops are very well received. So we're very focused on being a learning organization and doing a great job. And yeah, we're sort of high touch. And yeah, we've got a great group of people. Meg O'Neill is one of them. She was my editor-in-chief at Treehugger. And so getting the band back together a little bit. Also, Matt Daniels is a guy I worked with for my first company in Seattle in '95. And so it's fun to sort of work with some of the people I worked with in the past.
So let's go back a little bit. So mom and dad, are they still alive?
My mom and dad, yeah. Yep.
So you have to be the dream child for hippie parents. I mean, like, in terms of your success and everything you've touched has been really, part of, you really are a product of your not only environment, but you've overachieved, let's just say, in a wonderful way, in a very positive way, and it's in an inspirational way, both with your success in Web 1.0 and using it for the greater good, and now with your, leveraging technology, but also all of your knowledge base now, 30 years of knowledge of what you're doing with the Carbonauts. They have to be just the two proudest parents on the planet.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think that, they're very principle-based parents. They're very cool on that. And
it's great.
And adorable. Like, my mom and stepdad did like a few years ago now, but did like the 100-mile challenge. I think they lived for like a month or something with only using things that came within 100 miles. And
oh my gosh.
My mom's been a vegetarian for, 40 years or something. And yeah, my dad's fully into it. They actually did the Carbonauts. And then, full electric car, he's got solar, he's got heat pump. He just sort of went for it. So yeah, I think my parents are
Number two, both you and I are lucky enough to have lived through and actually been part of Web 1.0.
Yeah.
And also in sort of environment 1.0. If we're going to draw parallels to where we are with regards to technology now and all of the coolest stuff that's happening with regards to these apps and Zoom and all that we're on today, and where are we in the sustainability journey? Things shifted a little bit. Obviously, you were one of the big, just like Al Gore. I'll put you in Al Gore's, level. You were one of the change makers and in society when it came to sustainability. I got to live it and see it, so I can say that. But we've evolved since 2007 tremendously. For better and worse. And there's a couple of trends going on. I just want to understand from your perspective, what's your thoughts on them? One is the trend of linear circular economy.
Yep.
Sustainability itself, then with linear circular economy, morphing into the greater ESG trope, trend that is, coming from all different angles, both coming from partially the Me Too movement coming from Larry Fink and the financial institutions pushing down on their portfolio companies. A lot of European influence is sprinkled into there too, and how far ahead they were on sustainability, further than we were ever in the United States. Where are we now in your mind with regards to the journey in sustainability compared to when you were part of the genesis of the whole movement?
So like comparing it to like Web 1.0 kind of thing?
Yeah. How far they've moved? Have we moved far enough? And are we on the right track?
Yeah. Great question. Tricky question. I think we're pretty early. I mean,
yeah.
I was part of Web 1995, but then
that's early.
There probably were people back. There certainly were people. I mean, it was like 72 or something when the DARPA net or whatever.
Times, given that Google started in 98, 95, you were early. Ground zero. You were ground zero.
So I think sadly we're probably only in like 98, 99, 2000.
Wow.
I don't know. It's hard to say. Like certainly if you just look at the main graph, the carbon, it's just like, we're certainly not winning.
Well, like you said, this stuff has become ubiquitous. Sustainability is still not ubiquitous. That's what you're doing with Carbonauts, trying to make it, democratize sustainability and bring it to, like you said, to the people and to the corporations.
So I don't like to be negative. I don't think it helps very much. I mean, obviously we're in a very serious situation, and now compared to 1990 or 2004, you just have to look out the window sometimes. Certainly California, like either it's on fire or it's in a drought or it's flooding.
Right.
So the situation is serious, and there's unbelievable news daily, and we do have very high awareness. And what's been really gratifying is seeing these big clients that we're working with have really aggressive goals. Like it used to be, people were setting 2050, like it's easy to say something in 2050 when it's the 2018, that's a long way out, but that has changed. Now it's 2040, 2030, 2025, and people they made the commitments, and now I think they're like, oh my God, that's really around the corner. And so there's I'd say there's fantastic news on a daily basis. And I think, there are lots of vested interests. It has been bumpy. It's going to be bumpy. Like that is absolutely clear. But I think we're headed in we're definitely headed in the right direction. Although you can't see it yet in the graph, I think we're headed in the right direction. So I'm optimistic that we will figure it out.
I agree with you. I'm very optimistic. Do you feel that and I love the brands, of course. It's just so it's really it's exciting, the brands that have signed up to already use your great service. I think you're going to get many more brands, and I think you deserve to. In terms of engagement, I'm 60. My kids are 36 and 30. Is it more the millennials and Gen Zs that are signing up and are leaning in, or are you seeing it across all age groups?
I mean, in terms of the people that we generally are hitting, I'd say that probably our primary demographic are moms.
Right.
I think it's pretty clear if we just had the women direct things, we probably wouldn't be where we are.
100%.
So, moms are very connected to their kids and are looking forward, and they care enough to actually do something. And so I'd say that's a lot of our demo. I feel like this is not a very well-researched statement, but I feel like a lot of the youth are a little bit more, they don't have the cars, the houses, the money. They're getting started out. And so they're a little bit more about pushing on governments and corporations and stuff, which is absolutely necessary. I feel like that's a little bit more of what they're into in terms of our sort of focus. So our clientele probably end up being a little more 30, 40, 50, 60s.
Which by the way, I think, although, like you said, it's not science yet, but as you say, the young generation is untethered to what my generation was raised on, which was, you need a house in the suburbs and it's got to be 4 bedrooms and you need 2 cars and a spare house in the, up in the mountains. And they're not, like you said, they're part of this real shared economy, and they're very comfortable with Uber, Airbnb, and all, and, City Bike and all the wonderful, shared economy services that have come up in the last 10 years. And like you said, that can, again, help be the wind at the back of this whole new sustainability push and carbon push to neutralize where we are and get to carbon neutrality for all of us, not only corporations, but all of our households and all of us as people. But you are brilliant and great and super creative. I mean, obviously, art and architecture is all part of the creatives, and you're the makers. And you took that and you transferred your skill set and your creativity brilliance into internet and web. But that's just another form of art, really. What Treehugger, I still see as art. It's beautiful. What you originally created, I remember the original issues, and I still saw it this morning, and it's still beautiful. Why not today, in terms of what you're doing with Carbonauts? Is it okay to create canned content to go along with what you're doing live, where you don't see that as usable or as it's not reaching really the audience the way they want to be reached, as you say, coming to people where they are now? Is that ability still there, or not as much as it was back in Web 1.0?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll do that. We just get a little bit nervous about cannibalizing ourselves, but we'll do pre-recorded content, and we're starting to do some experiments with News Corp, etc. on that. The irony, though, or the paradox, is you sign up for a course that's online that you can do 24/7, 365 days a year, right? And so it's the most accessible. And yet you end up not doing it because it is the most accessible. So there is something about signing up for a workshop, a single one or a multi-session, where it's a time and you're going to be there, and the teacher and your fellow attendees are going to notice if you're there or not, and you're going to be engaged. And so we think that that's really powerful, and we try to make it about them and get them really connected and interacting, so that it's really sinking in, and it's not just sort of a one way, you're sort of like watching something, but you're busy on your phone. And so we'll do that stuff, and certainly a bunch of our stuff is on demand, and we look at the people. They're like buckets of people within companies, and some of them are going to be very just going to dip their toes, and so they're going to be light, and some of them are going to be medium, and then some of them are going to be like change agents that are going to really get after it. And we're trying to offer stuff for each of those, and we work with our clients to develop a program. So we look at a whole year, and so what are we going to do this month, and some of the stuff, some pre-recorded stuff available at all times, some customized newsletters every month, Ask Me Anythings a couple times a week, workshops, a book club, a film club. So we have a whole bunch of activities, and then we can help them do stuff for Earth Month. We can help them do stuff for New Year's, for Climate Week, etc. And so we really try to be their partner in developing a drumbeat of content that helps get people climate literate and enthusiastic and taking action. So
that makes so much sense.
We're a real partner for our clients.
I love that. That makes so much sense. Like you said, when something is available 7/24, it's like putting a book on your nightstand that you never get to because it's always So
Yeah.
I think you're on.
Yeah.
I think you're really onto something. We talk a little bit about, and I know you've been kind enough to invite me to, and of course, I'm embarrassed to say I haven't made them yet, but I'm going to make them this year. This is one of my resolutions for you. I really do
Excellent.
want to come to your sustainability dinner series. Talk a little bit about what you're doing with that in California and nationally, and
Sure.
and what's your vision of your sustainability dinner series?
Great. And I should remember, I can get you a link. We actually have a nomination link. So if anyone wants to nominate themselves or others for these, then maybe you can put it in the show notes or something.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes for sure. And by the way, for those who just joined us, we have Graham Hill with us today. He's not only the founder of Treehugger.com many, many moons ago, but he's also now the founder of Carbonauts. And you can find him at Carbonauts at thecarbonauts.com. Thecarbonauts.com. Graham, go right into the dinner series.
Sure.
Yes, we'll put that into the show notes. Yes.
Great. So I've always been a social person. I love bringing people together. Literally in my loft in 2000 in New York, we used to have a regular thing with a bunch of environmental people that would come over. We had a little group, a little offshoot of the Natural Step. And so this has been something I've always loved doing it. And I'm newer to Venice Beach. I was 19 years in New York. And so I just was like, I want to get into the green community here. I was, pretty integrated in New York, and I really want to figure out LA. And so I started doing these dinners, and now we've done, I don't know, 35 of them or something.
Wow.
And basically I find cool sustainability people, ideally at some big companies, so that they might be interested in working with us. But also cool nonprofits and cool startups and investors. And we, I order some vegetarian Indian from this amazing place called Mayura. And we do them either in my backyard. I have sort of a long table, and they're usually somewhere between 14 and 18 people. And everyone comes at 7, and we have some drinks, and then food comes. And sometimes I have someone speak for a little bit. We do intros going around the table so everyone knows each other. And then I write a LinkedIn post and I connect everyone. And it's just trying to build community around sustainability. It's sort of, similar to how green drinks, which I think is still going strong in some cities, but I don't think it is in LA. But so it's just a fun way to meet everyone and connect everyone. And for me, it's very rewarding because I see people making new friendships and off doing projects together, and people getting people jobs, and it's really cool. So we started to do like more targeted ones. Tonight I have one for sustainability investors. Next week is more for CSOs, sort of higher up in the food chain and sustainability. And we're doing them in Venice. We're doing them in Seattle. We're doing them in Vancouver. We're doing them in Boston. So that's where we have staff. And then when I travel, I do them as well. So it's great. And then it's a nice way for people to find out about the Carbonauts. And then some of them end up saying, hey, maybe this is something we could bring to my company. And so it's just a sort of nice way to meet people, and it's, good for business, and really, really rewarding. So. That's great. So I'm excited. Catherine Hayhoe is, we're talking. I just connected with her, and she happens to be coming through town. So we're going to try to do one around her. And been really, really fun.
What are you excited about as we go into 2023 now, and we're taping this episode in the first couple of weeks of 2023? There's lots of new technology coming our way with regards to hydrogen and battery recycling and new EV brands and all sorts of cool stuff. What gets you excited on the new technology that will further accelerate this the sustainability revolution?
So, I mean, what really gets me excited is when I see sort of people we've actually helped transform and has sort of, we've really helped them build a new identity, and they're really getting after it. So that's what's most exciting. The tech stuff, I think it's pretty obvious that we're going to need some pretty big breakthroughs if we're not going to end up in a world of world of hurt. And
Right.
so, I find that stuff very exciting. And I don't know what it's going to be. Small nuclear seems pretty amazing. I always get fusion and fission mixed up, whatever the new one is, fusion.
Right.
Fusion. Yeah, fission is what we do most. Fusion. The idea that, it sounds like it's still probably decades away, but if we can, and of course, solar and wind and geothermal, all of these things, if we can develop and make broadly accessible, really clean energy, we can do a lot. Because if you think about it, like these direct air capture things, like we're very likely going to have to figure out a way to take the stuff out of the atmosphere. And so if we have a lot of clean energy, then that'll very much help us do that. And so that stuff's very exciting. Maybe small nuclear can be safe and work well. I don't know, that the energy stuff, I think, is what it's mostly is very exciting. I think the one thing that is starting to get some traction, luckily, is biodiversity. I think there's a lot of talk about carbon, but we can solve for carbon, and we do need to solve for carbon. We can sell a crappy world as a result. So biodiversity is very, very important. And so that stuff's very exciting, definitely appeals to the nerd in me. Again, talking to National Wildlife Federation, they have building habitat in your backyard, planting, figuring out how to make it friendly for pollinators and for other animals and sort of build the biodiversity. So the nerd in me just loves that stuff. Really excited to work with them on that. So, any cool biodiversity stuff is great. I'll tell you about my BFF, this woman named Courtney Nichols Gould, and her man Gordon Gould have a company called New Atlantis. And they are doing a metagenomic analysis of the ocean in marine protected areas, MPAs, and then attaching it to the blockchain. So basically figuring out a way to understand the health of the ocean and then make it an investable asset, so that if the health of the ocean increases, the idea is the asset increases, and so that you could get real money into these marine protected areas and really help us save our oceans. And so,
that's exciting.
There's crazy stuff like that, which I think is amazing, and it's really exciting. So obviously I've been doing tech related stuff since 1995, so all that stuff's really exciting, and there's so much that we can do already that's really basic. We can live much lower energy lives. You can sign up for renewable energy anywhere you are in the U.S. Community solar is gaining real traction, and you can literally be on solar and save money even if you live in an apartment or can't put solar panels on wherever you are. Electric vehicles are gaining serious traction and are have their issues, of course, but compared to the alternative are definitely better. Plant-based foods just every single area is developing new, better, exciting, compelling product that often doesn't require any sacrifice, and so that stuff's definitely exciting. Cell-based meat. I mean, how amazing would that be if that happens?
Coming. So they say it's coming, right? They say it's exciting. Graham, talk a little bit about if I don't work for Chanel or Amazon or AT&T, but I really am so inspired by you and the Carbonauts. Are you going to open up a program this year or anytime soon that the general public at large could sign up for, of course, studies or other things that you're offering at the Carbonauts?
Yeah. In fact, I believe we have some live right now. So we also do direct to citizen.
Perfect.
And I think we'll do more and more of that. We like that. Corporate, we like because we can develop a long-term relationship and a big program over years. Sure. And if we can affect the corporation, It's a huge, huge thing. And we sort of look at it like our theory of change is that often there's like under 5% of a population that are sort of doing the thing. And if you can sort of, the change agents really, if you could really support them and help them build that social norm, it gets some momentum. And if you can get to like 25%, that's when, if it's a thing that we know is right intuitively, subconsciously or consciously, then that's when the whole thing flips. So you don't have to get all the way there. You got to get to like 25% and the whole thing flips. So we're largely about working with that 5%, getting the momentum to get to the 25%. So you can see it, you can imagine us doing that within a company. So trying to get the company to really flip. But you can also go up one level. And if you can get 5% of the companies and get it to 25% of the companies, then all the companies are going to flip. And so that's sort of the our big sort of theory of change.
That's fascinating. So the lift really isn't, you're not, even when you look at 95% of the population in America, the lift isn't 95. You're looking for just you just want to get us up 20% more, because then the flip will naturally happen. Didn't realize that. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really brilliant. You know, Graham, I could just spend all day with you. I'm going to come to one of your dinners in the near future. For our listeners and viewers, if you're inspired by Graham Hill, and how can you not be, and the Carbonauts, please sign up. Go to thecarbonauts.com. Get involved. He has a direct-to-citizens approach. So even if you don't have working for a larger company that's already one of his clients, you could be one of the citizens who signs up for his course series on sustainability and be part of the change, be part of the lift, be part of the future of changing our world to make it a better place. Graham Hill, you are definitely one of the key people that have made our world a better place. You're the reason why I started this show. You're the reason why we've been on our mission. You've been inspiring to me personally. I'm so grateful for your time today. I'm so grateful that you've stayed on this journey when you could have retired long ago and done a whole host of other things. Thanks for starting thecarbonauts.com. Thanks for being on the show today. You're always welcome back here. And I do look forward to meeting you in person in the near future.
Thanks, John. That's very sweet of you. It means a lot coming from you. I really appreciate it. And and if anyone needs to reach out to me, I'm just Graham at thecarbonauts.com. Easy to find.
This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by Engage. Engage is a digital booking platform revolutionizing the talent booking industry. With thousands of athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and business leaders, Engage is the go-to spot for booking talent, for speeches, custom experiences, live streams, and much more. For more information on Engage or to book talent today, visit letsengage.com. This edition of the Impact Podcast is brought to you by ERI. ERI has a mission to protect people, the planet, and your privacy, and is the largest fully integrated IT and electronics asset disposition provider and cybersecurity-focused hardware destruction company in the United States, and maybe even the world. For more information on how ERI can help your business properly dispose of outdated electronic hardware devices, please visit eridirect.com.